Hi, my name is Anna, and I'm from Ohio. Please like and subscribe. My parents always dreamt of being world-famous singers, but they could never become anything more than background vocals. So when me and my sister Tanya were born, Dad taught me all about music. While Tanya was Mom's favorite, 'cause she was the pretty one. Everyone admired her emerald green eyes and blonde hair. Once when we were 5, a woman even tried to steal her from the park.
Let go of my sister or I'm gonna scream! I'll give you $10, kid. Let go of her hand.
Tanya and I struggled until she let go and ran away before the police came. Tanya hugged me tight.
Anna, you saved me. No one touches you on my watch, sis.
Even growing up, she always had everyone's attention, whereas I enjoyed my simple life. But then in 10th grade, things took a wild turn. One day after school, we got home to see Dad being rushed to the hospital. He had a heart attack. A week passed by, and we found out he wasn't gonna get better unless he had this really expensive surgery, and we didn't have money for it. Mom was thinking about selling the house when, out of the blue, she got a phone call. After she hung up, she screamed like crazy. My former agent told me they're looking for new talent and they're gonna pay huge money. She told us about a music audition that was happening in another week and asked us to grab the opportunity. On the day of the audition, everyone was stunned by Tanya's looks, but when she opened her mouth, they all covered her ears. Hello from the other side. Someone grabbed the mic from her hand or shut off the speakers. I can't stand her voice. Well, he was over-exaggerating, but not entirely. Tanya couldn't sing a note, not even in the bathroom. A few minutes later, it was my turn, and when I started singing, the producers looked mesmerized. I'm not giving up on you. You know I love you. Please hug me and say it back. I love you. After a long discussion, they announced they were gonna sign both of us, but there was one condition. They wanted me to sing, but in the background, for Tanya, she would lip sync to my voice. No, that's wrong. We won't be doing that. But Tanya held my hand with teary eyes. Please, sis, you have to do this. We need the money. But Tanya, Anna, my love, the future of our family rests on your shoulders now. Think about your dad. Think about our family, honey. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stand to see my family suffering. So I agreed. After we signed the deal, all of Dad's hospital bills were paid, and he came back home all healthy in a month. And then it was just me and Tanya and the non-ending music videos and tours around the country. Everywhere Tanya went, people would go crazy for her. They would literally jump over each other to catch sight of her. These people were nuts. And clearly, this was getting to Tanya's head, because when we returned to school after summer break, she started acting like a queen and a bully. Get out of my seat. That's my spot. Don't you know who I am? The guy didn't even flinch and kept munching on his sandwich, and Tanya looked as furious as a dragon. Hey, it's okay. We can take another seat. Maybe he can't hear, but she just picked up a bottle full of mustard and dumped it on his head. You've got to be frickin' kidding me. I looked at the guy, who looked raging mad. Hey, I'm sorry about my sister. She's a little... Please, let it go. I'll pay for your jacket later. I grabbed Tanya's hand as I pulled her out of there. Have you lost your mind? Didn't you see? He was acting as if he didn't know me. Tanya, you're not the president, and you should... Whatever, Anna. You didn't have to say sorry to him. He's a jerk. Saying that, she stormed away. Ugh, such a diva. Later, after school was over, I went into the music room to practice my singing, but just as I finished, I heard someone clap behind me, and I was shocked to see the guy from the cafeteria, Brandon. That voice, that's your sister's voice when she sings, isn't it? Oh God, what now? But he didn't know anything for sure. I thought you didn't know her, and now you know her voice? I never said that. She just assumed it. I know who she is, and now I know her little secret. You know nothing. With every sentence, he kept getting closer as I was backing away. I tripped over something, and he caught me. What are you even doing here? Everyone's gone. But you're still here, and you kinda owe me something. My eyes widened at that, but then he put me back on my feet and continued. You said you'll pay for my jacket, I'm here to collect the money. Right. What was I even thinking? I gave him some money from my bag and ran out of there. A few days later, while I was in the library, Tanya came to me.
I want you to go and give this to Brandon and tell him that I want to meet him at the cafe tonight.
What? Why? What are you up to now?
Didn't you see? He ignored me. He isn't like the other guys who were running after me 24/7. I like him. I want him. I want to make him my freaking boyfriend.
Well, then you go and talk to him. Why should I do it?
Because I'm me, duh. I'm a superstar. I can't make the first move. I don't want to look desperate. Do it for me, please.
Ugh. Reluctantly, I left a note on his table and asked him to come to the cafe and ran out of there. Later, Tanya asked me to tag along, and just when we reached the cafe, she saw some random people with cameras there.
Oh no, paparazzi. I can't be seen with anyone. My contract doesn't allow me to date publicly, Anna.
But what about Brandon? He's waiting for you.
Can you please go and tell him I'll see him tomorrow at school? Okay, thanks, bye.
Saying that, she ran into a cab and rode away. Now I had no choice but to inform Brandon myself, so I went in. Hey, I'm sorry, but I thought you wouldn't come and that this was some stupid prank, but I'm glad you're here. What? Me? Wait, did he think I was the one who called him here? Shoot! I wanted to tell him everything, but he looked so happy to see me, and he'd ordered all my favorite food items. I thought I could wait another few minutes before telling him, but as time went by, things just kept getting better and better. He was pretty cool. After our little date, he walked me back home. This was my chance to tell him the truth, but he just pulled me in for a kiss, and gosh, it was amazing. Suddenly, I heard Tanya coming out the front door, and I pushed him away into the bushes and rushed in. The next day, I was looking for him everywhere to tell him the truth, but I found Tanya was already talking to him in the corridor. Frickin' fishes. What do you mean you don't like me? Then why did you show up at the cafe last night? What are you, crazy? I wasn't waiting for you. I was there for Anna. I wouldn't date someone as mean as you, even if you were the last girl on earth. How dare you? Tanya slapped him hard and ran out of there, and all the kids were recording everything on their phones. This was bad. I ran after Tanya, but she pushed me away. Get lost, Anna. I told you I liked him, but you trapped him first. Tanya, stop it. I didn't do anything. He liked me from the beginning, and you sent me to him. Yeah, it was my biggest mistake, thinking I could trust you. Traitor witch. She jumped onto me and grabbed my hair, and we broke into a huge fight. Mom and Dad were called in, and the principal showed them the videos the kids had recorded. He said Tanya's behavior was getting worse day by day, and she was suspended for a month. I felt so bad and went to hug her later that night and told her I wasn't going to see Brandon anymore, and she immediately hugged me. But when I went to my room, Brandon was already waiting there. Why are you avoiding me? And what was your sis talking about today? Brandon, you can't be here. Get out now. Hey, chill. Why do you look so tense? Tell me what happened. He pulled me close into his arms, and I just melted. I told him everything, honestly, and then he looked into my eyes. I won't force you to like me, but if you do, I won't let anyone keep you away from me, Anna. He moved in to kiss me, but just then, Tanya came into my room with a fire extinguisher in her hand and sprayed it all over us. I knew it, you ugly cow. I knew you're a filthy backstabber, and I'm gonna destroy you both. Suddenly, Mom and Dad came running too, and she was taken back to her room. And I was grounded for a week for inviting a boy. We had a big concert soon, and though I was super mad at Tanya, I still had to help her because of our contract. As usual, I was singing backstage while the entire crowd was cheering for Tanya. After the performance was over, she was given an award for star performer. Even Mom and Dad were called on stage. You guys must feel truly blessed to have a daughter with the voice of an angel. It's an honor. We're so lucky to have her. For some reason, I felt really left out, and I smashed my mic on the ground. Just then, someone from the audience asked Tanya to dedicate a song to Mom. Holy moly. Tanya made this gesture with her hands that was my cue to sing every time. But my mic, it was lying broken on the floor. She started singing without me,
and everyone in the audience heard her real voice. Oh my God! A wave of silence passed through the audience, and Tanya looked at me super mad. The crowd started chanting that she was a fraud who did lip syncing. They went mad and started climbing onto the stage. The bodyguards immediately took Tanya and my parents away to safety and left me there all by myself. How could they? I ran out of the venue and I was raging mad. I did so much for them and they didn't care about me one bit. But when I reached home, I was shocked to see a huge crowd gathered in front of my house. What in the world was happening? Just then, my phone went buzzing like crazy with videos and messages from everyone. Tanya's bullying and lip-syncing videos were going viral, and someone uploaded my video as the real singer too. Holy Mother of Jesus! I quickly went into the house through the back door, and on seeing me, Tanya viciously threw a vase at me, which I barely missed. Just then, I saw all the singing awards and trophies she was burning in the fireplace. Oh my God, have you gone crazy? Why would you do that? What were you thinking? Trying to ruin me? What? Are you kidding me? It was an accident. Oh, was it? Or is it because you want some fame for yourself now? Just remember this, you witch. People hear your voice because of my face. Otherwise, no one would ever pay you, even if you sang on the roadside. Who was this monster? You're such a mean, self-absorbed brat, Tanya. I can't believe you'd say that to me when the fact is, you're only a star because of my voice. Without me, you're just a pretty dumb face. Tanya picked up a burning trophy in her hand and charged at me with full force. You took away everything from me. The guy I loved, my reputation at school, and now my fame too. I'm gonna kill you. Thankfully, Mom and Dad came in and stopped her just in time. Stop this madness right now. I can't believe we were so blinded by your beauty and fame that we never realized what a monster you were turning into. Dad took the burning trophy from her hand and threw it away.
Anna, we're so sorry. We've never truly appreciated you for everything you've done for us. You're the daughter that every parent would be proud of. Please, forgive us.
Oh, Mom, Dad, you people are just morons. And I'm not letting go of my fame so easily. Watch this. I'm gonna walk out and everyone is still gonna love me. Tanya opened the front door and walked out, and all the media surrounded her.
So, is it true you can't sing? And that creepy frog voice we heard? Was it your real voice?
And who's the real singer? Is she your sister? We want to say her. You're just fake trash. Just then, a bunch of anti-fans started throwing eggs and rotten tomatoes at her. She was screaming like crazy and pushing through the crowd to get to her car. And well, I was enjoying it. She was totally getting what she deserved. I thought I'd get a better view from my room, so I went up and found Brandon there. I immediately hugged him.
Whoa, the truth's all out now. And I can't believe I'm dating the real star. I'm excited for your famous life now.
No, Brandon. I just want a peaceful life. And if you're with me to enjoy some kind of popularity, you got the wrong girl.
No, babe. I don't care about what you choose, just as long as I can be with you. Always.
Hi, my name is Jen. One day, I was sitting quietly in class, listening to our boring teacher ramble on and on. Miss Silva was always super strict with us, and she loved to brag about how only she understood the hard realities of life, since she had once been homeless for a whole 2 hours. When we were assigned projects, and she refused to let me do my chosen project, which was homelessness, she went too far. My dream in life was to become a social worker and help people living on the streets. Miss Silva wouldn't budge though, and she mocked me saying, "Jen, with your cushy life, you can't possibly have the perspective to understand this topic." How dare she? Everyone in my class laughed. I had been known as a spoiled girl throughout high school because we were well off, and my classmates must have agreed with her. I complained about it to my friend Carol, who agreed that Miss Silva was mean and out of line. But then she said, "Yeah, but it was pretty funny too. I mean, you are very spoiled, and you wouldn't survive half a day on the streets." I replied, "Seriously, Carol? I might look spoiled to you, but I'm not. I could make it as a homeless person for a week, if not more." Carol laughed and said, "Sure you can, princess. If you're so confident, why not try it out? In fact, I dare you. You know what? I will do it. I'm not afraid to try. You challenged the wrong girl. Dare accepted. After that, Carol and I decided that she would film my journey of being homeless for a whole week. I was actually seriously scared about the idea. What was I thinking? A whole week! I might die from hunger, or get eaten by a predator, or get sick and die of hypothermia. But something in me wanted to go through with the dare. I wasn't gonna give up. My mom, of course, hated the idea. She even threatened to ground me to make sure I couldn't do it. She warned me that life on the streets was dangerous, especially at night. But I wasn't going to go crawling back to Carol and tell her that my mommy wouldn't allow it. I was going to do it with or without my mother's approval. My plan was that on the days when I was supposed to be at school, I would claim that I was sick. Instead, I would sit on Main Street in dirty clothes to blend in with other homeless people. But every night, I would go home and sleep in my own bed. On an early Monday morning, before school, Carol and I started packing my bag with stuff from my locker and home. I had brought way too much stuff from home, but I wanted to be on the safe side. When we were about to leave, Carol had one more dare. She wanted me to set up in one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the city. At first, I refused, as I could end up in real danger. But Carol refused to negotiate. Instead, we made a deal that I could call 911 if anything were to happen. I began to feel weird about the whole thing. Some people were giving me wary looks, though most just pretended I wasn't there. The neighborhood looked pretty scary. It took a long time to decide where to set up. There was an empty convenience store that had gone out of business, so I decided to settle down in the doorway. I sat down and placed my Nike hat on the ground. Carol offered some last-minute cookies, but I refused as I wanted this to be as genuine as possible. Homeless people find their own food. Carol filmed me for a brief time and said, "This is Jen on her first day as a homeless person. Good luck!" And then she went home. Sitting in the doorway made me sore fast. I ended up leaning on the newspaper-covered door. I felt so nervous. How did homeless people do this? I tried to pass the time by daydreaming about me and my crush from school, Erin, but that only lasted a few minutes. Finally, someone dropped a few coins in my cap. I smiled and said thank you. The soreness started to become too much. Time for a stretch, I thought, getting to my feet. The minute I stood up, though, a mangy-looking, middle-aged man with a long, scraggly beard and black, glittering eyes confronted me. "That's my spot," he growled at me. For a split second, his tall, looming figure unnerved me, and I got ready to run away. The next moment, however, a voice in my head spoke up. "If you don't stand up to the likes of him now, the whole week will be your personal hell." The thought charged me, and I dug my heels in. "Beat it, old man. I was here first." I tried to imitate his way of speaking. His frown deepened, and he raised his hand. With a flash, I swung my backpack off my shoulder and straight into his stomach. "Ah!" He groaned, doubling over. In my heart, I congratulated myself, thinking I'd won. The next minute, however, the man looked over his shoulder and yelled, "Get her, boys!" That's when I saw two equally mangy-looking boys emerge from the shadows. They both grinned evilly as they stepped towards me. Before they took another step, I threw the cap with the coins in the man's face, which caught him off guard and gave me time to turn on my heels and run. Behind me, I could hear him yelling at the boys to get to me faster. People around us were starting to stop and stare. I didn't have time to ask them to intervene. I pushed past everyone, heading towards the busy roads. I had a good head start, so I was hopeful I could get away from them. I realized, though, that they were hot on my heels, and as I passed a grocery store, I bumped into a woman with a trolley. "Damn!" I cursed as her stuff went flying. "I'm so I stopped as I saw the woman was none other than Miss Silva. "Jen?" She gasped, shocked. Before I could run away, she grabbed me by the arm. The boys had almost caught up to me now. When they saw me with Miss Silva, they assumed I'd gotten into trouble. Giving me one last look of anger, they turned around and went back the way they had came. I, however, was stuck with Miss Silva, whose shock was being slowly replaced with rage. "What in the world are you doing?" she asked sharply. I briefly explained to her the bet her insult had led to. She looked ashamed. "I'm sorry, Jen. This isn't what I wanted you to do." I gave her a quick hug and made her promise she wouldn't tell anyone. To my surprise, seeing how determined I was to get through this, she agreed. Then she asked me where I would be and promised to come check on me every day. Realizing she wasn't as bad as I thought she was, I returned to look for another spot around the same area. The next few days passed without any more fights, and I quickly learned about life as a homeless person. It's true that I still slept in my house as soon as it got dark, but during the daylight hours, I was struggling to survive. Carol came every morning at 6 a.m. to make sure I was still there. She'd make fun of me every time about the way I looked. I wasn't taking care of my skin and I started getting pimples. My hair looked bad, and I'd really started to smell. I got used to it pretty fast, though. I also learned how to deal with homeless people. They weren't as bad as I'd first thought, and they were actually pretty nice to me. They shared their food with me and told me all kinds of tales about themselves. Soon enough, I had some homeless friends who were very good people. On the final day of the dare, I was already excited about going back to normal life. But that day, something weird happened. A man stopped in front of me. He had a briefcase and was dressed in a nice suit. He was eyeing me with a mixture of admiration and suspicion. He asked me if I was homeless, and I said yes. He left to make a call, then came back. He told me that I'd impressed him with my street smarts and standing my ground against that other homeless man on my first day. How did he know all that? If I wanted, he said, I had the opportunity to be on a new reality TV show that was like Big Brother, but with teens. I stared at him blankly. The man explained that this reality show wanted to give back to the community, so they were allowing 2 homeless teens on the show. I fit the picture. I wasn't sure what to say as I wasn't really homeless, and it felt wrong. But I loved reality shows, and this was an amazing opportunity I'd never have otherwise. The man took my silent contemplation to mean yes, and the next thing I knew, I was signing an agreement to be on the show. Before I could admit the truth of my situation, he had got my cell number and was gone. I sat there in shock for a few minutes. Later that day, I went to the soup kitchen, which was packed, and had actually decent soup. Some of the ladies were nice and let me wait in line with them. However, as I was waiting, I soon saw things devolve into chaos. There were too many people who needed food and not enough staff to hand it out. It even seemed like there might not be enough food. Some of the people in line started mobbing and fighting each other to get to the front of the line. I hurried behind the counter and started handing out food alongside the volunteers and yelled at people to calm down. I managed to get everything back to normal, and quickly, everyone was happily getting served. After I went back out on the streets, I saw it was about to get a lot harder as it started to rain. All of the homeless people took cover, but I stayed where I was since I wanted to have the full homeless experience, including the very worst parts. After all, if something like that happened at night or when I was too weak or tired to move, I'd be exposed to the elements. Plus, I needed to think about what I had seen back there in the soup kitchen. It was incredibly moving and heartbreaking. Those poor people, so hungry and miserable that they were driven to get into physical fights for food. I wanted to do something, but I felt so helpless. That evening, when I got home, I didn't feel right. The dare had ended, but I still felt bad about the harsh reality homeless people were forced into. When my mom saw me, she was horrified. She said I'd been acting weird all week and that I looked like I had a terrible cold. When I admitted what I'd done, she was furious with me. Then I remembered the offer I received, but telling her about the reality TV show didn't calm her down. At dinner that night, I was quiet, and when my mom asked me why, I admitted, we always have food, so I always took it for granted. But today, I saw people fight just to get something to eat. My mom felt bad about what I'd seen, but seemed to think that was just the way things were. I wasn't so convinced though. There had to be something I could do. That night in my room, I couldn't sleep or stop my negative thoughts from cycling around my head. Maybe it was because of all the homeless friends I'd made and how frustrating it felt not being able to help them. So, in the middle of the night, I made up my mind. I'd go on the reality show so I could win money to help my friends. When I told my mom, she was supportive, although she was worried. You never know what crazy stunts these reality TV shows will pull. I told her not to worry, that I'd be able to fend for myself. Besides, I had to do this to help my friends. It was lucky that I called the director when I did, because they were just about to start filming the show. As it turned out, my mom was right about the show. For some reason, the director decided to focus on me and encouraged me to be mean to the other contestants. He wanted me to do things like steal their food and even call them names. I guess they wanted to paint me as a villain or something. At first, I went along with it, because if I won, I could help so many of my friends. But the director kept pushing me further and further. And the worst thing was, he'd smile his creepy smile and say, "You know you want to." Ew, no, I didn't. Finally, when we were on the streets filming one day, they got me to pick a fight with a girl who was sleeping under a plaid blanket. I almost said no, but I knew the director would boot me off the show if I argued. So I went for it and shook her awake. When the girl came out, sleepy and disoriented, my jaw dropped. It was one of the friends I made while I was living on the streets. You jerk! I exploded at the director. How dare you torment homeless people when you know how vulnerable they are? You're sick! The crew put down the camera, and my friend hurried away before I could explain myself. Meanwhile, the director's face was beet red, and he said with a sneer, "The award had your name on it, but now you're getting nothing." And that was that. I was booted off the show. At least my conscience was more or less intact. I was livid. The show had been completely corrupt. It made money off homeless people who didn't know any better and were desperate for money. When I called Carol, she agreed that the directors and the crew were complete psychos, but brought up how she had filmed me. That gave me an idea. On the day that the show was to premiere, we decided to take our revenge. Some of my tech-savvy friends helped us post the videos Carol had made of me on social media. Now the whole homeless reality show was ruined, as it was revealed I was never actually homeless. The show was publicly criticized, and the director received threats from angry people, and he tried to sue me for his losses. Luckily, Carol's mom was the top lawyer in town and represented me. The case got a lot of press, and big lawyers got involved. But in the end, I won. All the judge had to see was some footage of the show and how it took advantage of homeless people, and she ruled that the entire show was unethical and misleading. Best of all, though, was what she ruled would happen to their profits. All of it would go to help the homeless. So, in the end, I did receive some criticism for pretending to be homeless. It was a risk posting those videos, but one I definitely didn't regret. The most important thing was that I helped my friends and other homeless people too.
I was sitting in the principal's office forgetting in a fight yet again. I was thinking about how my mom would be proud of me for standing up for myself. She was never happy about the fights I'd gotten into before, but she always let me off the hook because she knows it runs in our family. All I needed now was my mom to get me out of here. Pretty soon my mom walked in and glared down at me. The principal walked in right behind her. "I'm so sorry this keeps happening, Mr. Earl," my mom said while glaring at me. "I'll make sure she's punished again. Miss Carla, your daughter gave the poor boy a broken nose and she broke his fingers for good measure. What does that even mean?" said the principal, throwing his hands up while I tried not to smile. "I think pushing her isn't working. You really ought to consider some other options." "Maybe I know how to raise my daughter," my mom said. "I apologize that you have to keep dealing with this, but I assure you she'll be better, won't you?" I nodded eagerly. The principal sighed but stood away from the door, and I got up and left the office with my mom. She was unusually quiet on the ride back home, so I decided to cheer her up and told her about how Jerry thinks he's so macho, but I gave him a beating he's definitely going to remember. My mom was quiet the whole time, but I kept talking. "You're happy I put him in his place, right, Mom?" "No," she said sternly. "What?" I was shocked to hear her say that. "You putting that boy in the hospital caused your father to panic at work because the school called him first. Then he told me to come pick you up and I was..." She suddenly stopped talking. I was getting angry at this point. My mom has always known that we have violent tendencies, but when I finally use them to do something good, she yells at me? How is that fair? "Is this really how you wanted to start your summer break?" my mom asked angrily. She continued to scold me, but I just decided to zone out, so I wasn't really paying attention. When we arrived home, I ran to my room and decided to stay there. Something had to change around here. What was I supposed to do? Just let that jerk Jerry keep running his mouth? The first few days of my summer break were boring enough. Most of my friends go on vacations, but my parents never agree to take me no matter how much I ask. Everybody else was getting into relationships and hanging out in twos. All that mushy stuff really isn't for me. I was waking up early because I was still in the habit of going to school in the morning, but pretty soon I started to notice that my mom was acting strange. She would kiss my dad goodbye at the door every morning before he left for work and then stayed by the window. It was almost as if she was making sure that he was really gone each time. I could see it all from the breakfast table. I thought that was just my mind trying to make something interesting happen to make my days less boring. But then things got even weirder. Right after my dad left, my mom would go directly up to her room. I would still be eating breakfast by the time she came back down with a black duffel bag that I was sure I had never seen before. She would then say that she was going to go and hang out with Mrs. Lebowski across the street. I didn't think twice about it the first time it happened. I asked about what she had in the bag a few times. She would sarcastically say things like, "a dead body," or "my new chainsaw," and laugh as she walked out the door. She always got back about an hour before my dad got home in the evening. Maybe my mom just made a new friend. After all, Dad was at work all day and I was at school, so maybe she just got bored. But then she started doing this every single day. She would wait for my dad to leave, go upstairs to her room, come back down with the same black duffel bag, and leave for Mrs. Lebowski after telling me there was lunch in the fridge. Something didn't add up. My mind started flooding with questions. Since when did Mom and Mrs. Lebowski become such good friends? What's up with the bag? Why does she only go on weekdays? Is it because my dad is home on weekends? Is she hiding something from him? I decided to start looking into it, to see if I was just blowing things out of proportion. Maybe Mom and Mrs. Lebowski just discovered some new board games to play or something. Is that what grown-ups are into these days? Anyways, I waited at the breakfast table until she left in the same way after telling me there was leftover spaghetti in the fridge for lunch. Then I looked out the window and saw her walking normally across the street to where Mrs. Lebowski lives. So far, so good. I saw her ring the doorbell, and Mrs. Lebowski came to the door to welcome her in. My mom went in and the door closed. I turned back and sat at the table. Well, that was disappointing. That's when my gut woke up. Probably after digesting the scrambled eggs I just ate. Something inside me told me there was more to the story. I made up my mind and went out after her. I was halfway across the street when I realized I was still in my Powerpuff Girls pajamas, but I was too late to turn back now. I went around the house to try and find a window I could look through. I made my way to the back of the house. Mrs. Lebowski had a really nice back garden with gnomes and properly trimmed grass and hedges. As far as clear windows go, no luck. Either the curtains were drawn or the window was too high to look through properly. There was a road behind her house, and I wondered if my mom somehow sneaked out the back to go somewhere. I could feel my anger rising, thinking I had failed. It didn't help that the sun was showing no mercy. I was just about to start kicking the grass out when I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. It was a rusty black van approaching. I've seen enough movies to know that black vans are always a bad sign. I dived behind a nearby hedge and decided to wait for it to pass. To my surprise, though, it stopped right behind Mrs. Lebowski's house. I peered out from the side of the hedge. Some of its blades were digging into my arm, but I didn't care. I knew something was about to happen here. Were there kidnappers in the van? Thieves? The sun reflected off the window, so I couldn't see who was driving. For a moment, time stood still, and nothing happened. Then I heard the back door unlock, and Mrs. Lebowski stepped out, dressed fully in black, and started to walk towards the van. I was preparing to throw a gnome if any bad guys were going to show up, but then my mom walked out of the house. She was dressed head to toe in black, even with gloves and a mask that covered her nose and mouth. My head was buzzing with questions and confusion. I was about to pick up my phone and call my mom, but I stopped myself. Everything about this looked really shady. I had always wondered how my mom dealt with her violent nature. Maybe this was it. If it was, I was definitely going to be part of it too. I decided I needed to know more. I needed evidence, especially since mom was trying to keep this part of her life a secret. I ran up to my mom's room and looked around, but everything was neat and tidy as it had always been. Even the pile of clothes in the basket in the corner of the room looked neat. There was no use searching everything. I decided I needed to know exactly what I was looking for. I left the room and began planning. When my mom came back, I pretended that nothing had happened, although I had to force myself to stop smiling. I really was excited. Before sleeping that night, I made sure my phone was charging. I would need it. Sleep didn't come easy, but eventually it did. The next morning, I shot out of bed. Today was the day. I crept to my mom's room. She was already making breakfast. I went over to a corner in her room, turned on the video recording on my phone, and put it in the laundry basket between her clothes, making sure it was hidden but could still see everything. Then I walked down and ate as casually as I could. Everything happened as usual, and I kept wishing it would all happen faster. As soon as my mom left, I ran up to her room and got my phone out. I immediately stopped the recording and played the video, skipping to the part where my mom walked in. My mom carefully closed and locked the door after she entered. She went to the table by her bed and took out what looked to be a key. Then she walked over to her cupboard at the edge of the room and unlocked it. Out came the duffel bag. She then stuffed the bag with some things I couldn't see because she was blocking the view with her back and shoulder. She then closed and locked the cupboard, put the key back, and walked out. I paused the video right there and went to the table by her bed. Going through some papers and makeup stuff, I eventually found the key and ran right to the cupboard. Just as I was about to unlock it, I heard my mom's voice coming up the stairs. I panicked. This was really bad. Not being able to think of anything better, I crawled under her bed as quickly as I could. Mom walked in, talking to somebody over the phone. Yes, I understand. I don't know how I could have forgotten the gun. I'll be there soon. I held back a gasp. She hung up the phone, but my eyes were wide with excitement and surprise. Mom kept a gun in the house? Why? She opened her table drawer, and I suddenly realized I still had the key. I put a hand over my mouth so she couldn't hear me breathe. I heard her going through her drawer and even cursing a little. She eventually gave up and sat on the bed. I heard her phone unlock and she dialed a number to say, "Hey, listen, I'm really sorry, but I don't think I'll be able to make it today. Yeah, I know, it sucks, but you'll have to finish the job without me. Thanks for understanding. Okay, bye." With that, my mom sighed and walked out of the room. I heard her footsteps going down the stairs. I crawled out from underneath the bed and put the key back in the drawer under some papers. With that, my mom sighed and walked out of the room. Then I walked down and saw my mom washing dishes. "Hi," I asked as I tried to keep my voice from shaking. "You're back early today, huh?" "Yeah, I guess today was a short day out," she replied. She stopped the water running suddenly and groaned. "Ugh, I forgot my bag at Mrs. Lebowski's. This just isn't my day." It really isn't, I thought to myself. My mom said she'd be right back, dried her hands, and left. I ran up once again to her room. I worked quickly to take out the key and unlock the cupboard. When I opened it, I was shocked by what I saw. There was my mom's outfit from yesterday hanging, but it had red stains on it. There were also red stains on the bottom of the walls. I couldn't could hardly believe it. Right behind her outfit at the back of the cupboard, there was a poster stuck that seemed more like a fancy certificate. It read, "Welcome to the Hit Gang." I could feel my excitement rising. My mom was in a gang? So this is how she deals with her anger issues. It all makes sense now. Was she an assassin or just petty crime? But why is there so much blood? I noticed a gray transparent packet on the floor of the cupboard. Inside was a silver object in the shape of a gun. I wanted to open it so bad, but I didn't know how to wipe my fingerprints yet. I took out my phone and quickly captured pictures of her cupboard. Then I locked it and put the key back. Tonight, I'm going to ask her to let me join her, I thought to myself. I'll do it in front of Dad so that he can also have a chance to join us. It'll be like a family thing. We could all be in a gang together. I ran to my room brimming with excitement. I could put on a nice girl act all day and be a part of a gang by night. Just like Mom. I skipped lunch that day, even though Mom offered to order fresh food. I needed to plan on what to say while I waited for Dad to get home. That evening, we all sat down at the dinner table. My mom brought the main course and I wasted no time. "Mom is in a gang," I yelled. So much for a planned speech. Everybody was silent for a moment. Then my dad started laughing and my mom just narrowed her eyes at me. Eventually, my dad realized he was the only one laughing and just looked at the two of us. "What?" he asked innocently. "Yeah," I said, turning to my dad. "Mom goes somewhere in a van with Mrs. Lebowski every day after you leave for work. And she has all this cool stuff in her cupboard, like cool black clothes, and there's blood everywhere, and there's a gun and a poster, and Mom, I want to join." My mom seemed surprised by that last sentence and smiled slightly as she said, "What?" "Yeah," I said. "I want to be a part of your gang and go on missions and fight people." My mom laughed a little and said, "So you've been spying on me." "Wait, she's telling the truth?" My dad chirped in disbelief. "You're in a gang?" "Yes, dear, I am," my mom said coolly with a smile. "I'm a part of the Hit Gang. I believe that's the poster you saw, right?" She gestured at me and I nodded with vigor. "Well, I am sorry to disappoint you and also ruin the surprise, but all I do is run a soup kitchen." "What?" said me and my dad at the same time. My mom smiled at me and calmly said, "That's right, I'm part of Housewives in Trailers. Since our kitchen runs from a trailer, it's kind of catchy. The stains you saw are tomato juice. The gun you saw is a staple gun. It helps to seal the packets we hand out for some people. The black is easy to clean and helps with the whole thing." I felt breathless. Then, I don't know why I burst out laughing. It was something I could not stop. "But why?" my dad asked Mom. "I wanted to surprise you all with a vacation. She's always going on about it, so I figured, why not?" I suddenly stopped laughing. So my mom was listening to me all this time. My dad was clearly still processing the whole thing. "So," my mom said to me laughingly, "since you're so good at spying on people, you can help our soup kitchen with some market research."
One night when I was 5, I woke up to a strange scratching sound. I reached over for my glasses, but I knocked them off the table instead. Just then, I saw someone climbing in through my window. I screamed, "Shut up, Jess, it's me." Oh, thank God. It was just my sister Betty. "Why are you climbing in through my window?" "Because mine got stuck. I'd just gone out for a walk." As Betty helped me find my glasses and put them on my face, I could see she was dressed for a party. She shoved a chocolate bar in my hand. "You didn't see anything, okay?" Yeah, I know the drill. I'm blind anyway."
Good girl.
"Hi, I'm Jessica. And I am kinda blind without my glasses. I have a condition called myopia. I can't see anything clearly unless it's 2 inches away from my face. But this isn't the biggest problem in my life. That's my wild older sister. Before I tell you my story, click like and subscribe. My mom was a marine biologist, and when I was 3, Betty was 13, and Sarah was 1, we found out that her research boat got lost at sea. Dad got really depressed and kept himself busy at work. This left Betty in charge, and she was the craziest substitute mom ever. Once when I was 6, Betty took me and Sarah to the mall and left us at an ice cream parlor saying she'd be back soon. But she wasn't. I took Sarah's hand and said I knew the way home. Well, I didn't, and we got really lost. When we finally managed to find our way home after hours, we walked in on Betty making out with some boy on the couch. "Where'd you guys come from? I thought you were in your room." She forgot us at the mall and even forgot she'd taken us there? I'd always been a bookworm, and by the 1st grade, I'd even taught myself Spanish. Betty came running to me one day and said, "Hey, nerd, tell me a sentence in Spanish that'll make a guy think, wow, how can someone be that pretty and smart?" I told her something, and she happily skipped off. I went after her. She walked up to a cute boy who'd just moved in next door and leaned in. "Tu aliento huele a caca de perro, idiota." I nearly choked trying not to laugh as he pushed her aside and stormed off. Of course, I paid for it when she left actual dog poop in my room. The smell didn't leave for days. This one time, though, her carelessness led to something really serious. In the 2nd grade, I came home one day and couldn't find Sarah anywhere. Betty just shrugged. She was here a while ago. She said, "I am Superman." And I said, "Prove it." And then she just left. 2 things you need to know about Sarah. She only talks in 3-word sentences, and only when she's excited or upset. Just then, we heard our neighbor scream. We ran out, and to our horror, Sarah was up on the roof wearing a red t-shirt as a cape. Sarah, no! OMG, don't prove it. I believe you. You're Superman. Thankfully, Sarah stepped back, but once she was down safely, Betty and I had a screaming match. Do you realize what could have happened? When will you start acting like an adult? You think I haven't been an adult taking care of you two? I never asked to be your mom, and sometimes it's really hard. What was she talking about? We were the nicest kids. Soon after, she went off to college, and I was responsible enough to take care of myself and Sarah anyway. She visited less and less frequently, but anytime she did, it was with a new guy. Life was just fine until I joined a new school in the 7th grade. On my first day in gym class, we were playing dodgeball when suddenly one of the girls ran right into me and knocked me over, and my glasses went flying somewhere. "Hey, can someone please give me my glasses?" Just then, I saw a blurry shape walk up to me. "Wait, I want to try them on." "Gosh, you're totally blind, aren't you? Let's play a game. How many fingers am I holding up? Hello?"
Knock it off, Annie.
Suddenly, a strong hand pulled me up and the person gave me my glasses. As I put them on, the cutest boy's face came into focus. "Gosh, Raymond, we were just having some fun. It's good to have you here, owl face. Well, until your home planet calls you back." And with that, Annie and her friends walked off laughing. I felt pretty embarrassed, so I ran off too. A whole year went by and the jerks kept bullying me any chance they got, but I just got used to ignoring them. Mrs. Harry Potter, Four-Eyed Freak, Geek. They just kept throwing lame names at me. Also, I had a huge crush on Raymond, but I knew I didn't have a shot with him. But then, life at school went from bad to worse. When I started 8th grade and we had our first science lesson, I almost fell off my chair in shock when the teacher walked in. It was Betty. While I was sitting there with my mouth open, I realized so were the other kids, especially the boys. Even Raymond was staring at her. "Hi guys, I'm Betty, your new teacher and best friend. Mindy, where's some blush? Girl, you look like a vampire. And Raymond, I think Jessica has a crush on you. But of course, you're way out of her league." OMG. I wanted the ground to open up and swallow Betty whole. After class, I stayed back to talk to her. "What are you doing? How did you get hired as a teacher?" "No, hello, how you doing, sis? And for your information, my degree is in teaching. But don't worry, I'm just the substitute for 2 weeks. It'll be fun." It was not. She was so dumb and didn't know the first thing about science. She once told the whole class that the Earth has 7 moons, 1 for every continent. She also said tattoos make you smarter, and when it rained too hard, that was just God crying over ugly people. And even worse, everyone found out we were related. One day in the cafeteria, Annie walked up to my table. "That dumb Betty is your sister? What a family. Looks like she got all the beauty and you got all the brains." I stood up and said quietly, "It sounds like you're a bit jealous, Annie. I mean, yeah, she is really pretty." I was about to walk away when she threw a glass of juice in my face. I ran off to the bathroom to clean my glasses and found Betty there. "Why are you covered in juice? Is that Annie bullying you? I'll deal with her." "No, you won't. You'll just make it worse. Stay out of it, Betty. You're not my mom." She turned to me with her arms crossed. "Fine, but let me tell you, the only way to deal with a bully is to fight back in a way they understand. She's only picking on you because of her own insecurities. Don't be her punching bag. It's easy for you to say. You've probably never been bullied." "Oh, yes, I have. And you think I don't know the things people still say about me? I just don't care, Jess. I like myself, just as I am." And with that, she walked out. A week later, Sarah's class was having a bake sale for charity, and I decided to go help her out during recess. But when I got there, I saw her table was already surrounded by Annie and her gang. "Why don't you talk, dummy? Is it because you sound as stupid as you look? I'm not paying for your stupid brownie till you sing a nursery rhyme for me. Come on, let's hear it. I barged right in and grabbed the brownie from Annie's hand. Get away from my sister or else. Annie and her friends started laughing. OMG, another sister. And this one can't speak? Wow, what a trio. The mute, the dumb, and the blind. She's not mute. She just doesn't want to talk to you. And Betty is amazing and wise. And you'd have to get a ton of plastic surgery to be as pretty as her. And I freaking wish I was blind right now so I wouldn't have to see your mean, stupid face. For a second, Annie looked completely shocked. Then she stepped toward me and said, well, we can fix that. She snatched the glasses off my face and snapped them into two. I lunged straight at her blurry figure. As we wrestled on the ground, we bumped into Sarah's table and it collapsed. That's enough. As soon as we heard the principal's voice, we both pushed each other away. The principal was about to drag us both off to her office for suspension when I suddenly heard Raymond say, "Ma'am, we all witnessed what happened, and only Annie and her friends are at fault here." When everyone joined in to say the same thing, the principal let me go and dragged the others away. I still couldn't see a thing, but I could just feel Annie's fury. Raymond taped up my glasses for me, and boy, my heart was just racing. As we helped Sarah set up her table again, Raymond said he had an idea and ran off. A few minutes later, we saw him come over with the whole football team, and he said, "Boys, attack." Within seconds, the jocks had finished all the brownies, and Sarah raised a good deal of money. And with a sudden boost of confidence, I just turned to Raymond and asked him out. He said yes. Later that afternoon, as Betty was leaving school, I ran after her and gave her a big bear hug. Thank you. You were right, and I stood up to Annie, and it was awesome. She hugged me back and smiled down at me. Whoa, let's get you some new glasses. Then we'll go home and you two can tell me all about it. You'd think we'd had enough excitement for one day, but we had a shocker waiting for us back home. When we walked into the lounge, a woman with thick glasses was sitting on the couch. I had no idea who she was, but Betty gasped and turned as white as a ghost. Mom? Wait, what? Mom isn't dead? The woman jumped up from the couch and started crying when she saw us. Oh, my babies, you're so big now. And wait, your dad said I was dead? He said your boat was lost at sea and you were never found. Where were you then? Suddenly the woman, Mom, turned red. I think you girls should sit down for this. As we all sat down in shocked silence, Mom said, I guess your dad tried to protect you by not telling the truth. You see, I left because I fell in love with someone else. He died last year But Betty jumped up from the sofa before she could finish. You what? You just abandoned us and left me to be a mom at 13? How could you be so selfish? I swear, I thought of you guys every single day, but your dad and I weren't happy. I did it for love. Look at us. As Betty angrily looked at Mom's picture with her lover, her face suddenly changed. Okay, he's much hotter than Dad, I get it. But we can't forgive you just like that. Leave, now. Mom started crying and begging for forgiveness, but Betty opened the door for her to leave, and she left. Mom then never stopped trying to contact us. I felt sorry for her, and honestly, I missed having a mom and wanted to give her a second chance. Sarah and I tried convincing Betty to forgive Mom, but she refused to listen. Until one day, Dad said, I wasn't a good husband for your mom. And when she left, I kept her away from you, by law. I made a huge mistake. I want your mom back. I want us back. Forgive me, my daughters. Now the three of us were mad at Dad, and we didn't talk to him for weeks. Until one night, Betty opened the front door with Mom behind her. I think it's time to have our mom back. We ran to Mom and hugged her. I'm so sorry I left you guys when you were so little. I put my hand through Betty's. Well, we had a pretty cool mom growing up. Long story short, our missing mom is back in our lives. We're slowly getting to know her, and she and I have myopia and a lot of other things in common.
I was heartbroken. The best day of my life turned out to be the worst. I hated every minute of it. Hi, I'm Selena, and I'm the shyest girl among my family and friends. I also have a huge love for food. You could say that I have a happy belly made of chocolate, chips, and ice cream. Bring those with a good book or a Netflix show, and I'm in heaven. I was kind of a loner who preferred spending time alone. As I grew up, my parents kept lecturing me about the importance of healthy eating and exercise. Do you know that old boring talk of how it is good to eat vegetables and not chips for dinner? Yeah, that one. They also said that I should make new friends and get out a little. I wouldn't have paid any attention to it if I wasn't really jealous of my sister Gabriel, who was not only popular and had lots of friends, but she also had the hottest body ever. I mean, she could wear a shopping bag and look great. And for that, guys were obsessing over her. She always dated the hottest, most attractive ones, and I couldn't even get a first date. She often said to me, "You know, staying at home with your potato chips won't get you your first kiss." Her comment always hurt me, and I always replied with a little laugh. She didn't understand my insecurity and my anxiety about being around people. I was always afraid of making a fool out of myself when meeting new people, but I was dying to have a first date, any date. I wanted to try what it feels to be a girlfriend. Then one time, while I was getting my books from the locker, Lorenzo, the captain of the football team, approached me and said, "Hey, Selena, would you like to go to a movie with me tonight?" I was shocked. I mean, no one has ever asked me out before, but I immediately replied, "Sure, what time?" We agreed to meet at 7 o'clock. I wore my best dress that made me look skinnier, which made me a bit more confident, and I had some makeup on. But when Gabriel saw me looking like that, she asked me where I was going, and when I told her, she laughed sarcastically and said, "Yeah, right, you and Lorenzo? I wouldn't believe it even if I saw it with my own eyes." I was furious. That was pretty mean. But I didn't say anything. I just went out. After the movie ended, Lorenzo and I went for a walk. Then he turned to me and said, "Selena, I've liked you for a very long time now. Would you be my girlfriend?" I was excited. So instead of saying yes, I leaned over and we had our first kiss. We were officially dating. The next day, the whole school looked at us while we were getting in holding hands, and I was like, "Yeah, baby, look who got the team captain." And for the first time ever, Gabriel was jealous of me. She was beyond angry, to the point that she came to the girls' bathroom and said in a threatening voice, "You break up with Lorenzo today, or else I would make your life miserable." What does she think of herself? Brussels sprouts? I simply answered, "No." I later found that she asked Lorenzo to go out with her, but he refused. I kept going out with Lorenzo, and I completely fell in love with him. He was so nice to me. But one day, when I walked into school, all the kids were pointing at me and laughing. I didn't understand why, but then one of my friends showed me. There were pictures of me looking horrible in my sweatpants, surrounded by lots of bags of chips. I was embarrassed. Tears formed in my eyes, and I went directly to the bathroom. I didn't want to see anyone. But Lorenzo came after me. He said that I shouldn't pay any attention to any of what these losers were saying, and that he'll love me no matter what. But Gabriel didn't stop there. I knew she was the one who shared the pictures. No one else could have gotten them. So when her plan failed, she went to something more extreme. She took pictures of me while I was in the bathroom and shared them. She also photoshopped some of them and put a naked guy next to me. It looked fake, but it had the caption, "The quiet is the nastiest." I was humiliated and felt horrible. Everyone had seen me naked, which I was not ready for. This time, Lorenzo comforting me was not enough. I headed to the house crying. All I wanted was to disappear. So I immediately signed up for the exchange student program, and luckily, I got accepted. I went to London without saying goodbye to anyone. I only said goodbye to my parents, and I deactivated all my social media accounts. My heart was aching for leaving Lorenzo like that, but I had to do it. You all are thinking that I must have changed my body during that time off, don't you? Well, you got that right. While in London, I decided to face my problem. I joined social therapy sessions to feel more confident about myself and learn how to defend myself. And more importantly, how to make friends. Then I joined the lacrosse team. I played sports while trying to eat healthy, and I managed to lose all the weight I had and get a nice-looking body. So, after the school year ended, I went back to my town looking fabulous, feeling good inside and out. When Gabriel saw me, she couldn't believe her eyes. I was slimmer and more petite than her. She said rudely, "You couldn't have done this by yourself. You must have taken some weird pills." All I said was, "Who cares, as long as I am the more attractive." My two old friends were happy to see the change, but all I wanted was to see Lorenzo. But to my surprise, he didn't even look at me. I told him, "Hey, I miss you. Don't you want us to get together again?" And he responded, "You don't get it. It was never about the weight, being shy, or those stupid photos. It was about how you disappeared. I don't want to be hurt like that again. I was devastated to hear this, but I didn't want to bother him again, so I kept my distance. But after a while, I noticed something strange was going on. Gabriel was still after Lorenzo. She just couldn't let him go. She kept following him wherever he went. I caught them multiple times arguing in different places at school. What the hell happened while I was away? Then one morning, I woke up to Gabriel throwing up in the bathroom. I went to check up on her, but as soon as she saw me, she started screaming, "Get out!" But I noticed that she was holding a pregnancy test in her hand. What? Oh my God! I waited for her outside, and when she came out, I asked, "Are you pregnant?" And she responded, "That's none of your business." She left me standing there speechless. But somehow, it all clicked. I was pretty sure that Lorenzo was the father, so I went to ask him. He was shocked when I asked him, and he asked nervously, "How did you know?" Wow. Was that all he cared about? I threw the water bottle upon him and went home thinking of how stupid I was. What a douchebag he is, sleeping with my sister and trying to make me feel bad for leaving him. I was furious at them both. I felt like I lost Gabriel forever. She didn't want me in her life, and no matter how many times I told her that I wanted to help, she just rejected me. I finally gave up, and just like before, I decided to focus on me and my studies to get out of this horrible place as fast as possible. So the end of the year, my sister had given birth to a beautiful boy called Alex, and I was off to college. 8 years passed. I never spoke to Gabriel once. I only visited my parents while she wasn't there. Then she moved out, and I didn't try to make any contact with her. However, I managed to meet Carl, the love of my life. He worked as a private trainer in the gym that I had a membership for. We instantly fell in love and started dating. 2 years into our relationship, he proposed, and I said yes. We planned to have a huge wedding that includes all of our family and friends, and I decided to give Gabriel a call and invite her to the wedding. Carl was inviting everyone, and they would surely wonder why my family wasn't there. But it turned out to be the worst decision I've ever made in my life, because the minute she saw Carl, our future house, and the job I had, she went ballistic. She started throwing crazy comments like, "You were always the lucky sister. You had everything you wanted." I knew she was having a hard life due to her poor choices, but she went overboard with it when she told everyone how I ran away for a year to hide my obesity. It's like she forgot what she did to me. Then on the wedding day, she was proposing a toast and she said, "Years ago, I slept with Selena's boyfriend, and last night, I slept with her future husband, just to keep the tradition." She was drunk. I knew it was not true. Carl and I were together the night before. All she wanted was to ruin the wedding, and she succeeded. All the guests started gossiping. The atmosphere was destroyed. Even the party ended early. And I was heartbroken. The best day of my life turned out to be the worst. I hated every minute of it. And so, for the final time, I went to her and said, "We are no longer sisters. I don't want to see you ever again." She laughed, and then she left with her son Alex. I thought that everything ended, but then a year later, my mom called me and said, "Honey, your sister needs you. I interrupted her saying, "Mom, what did I tell you? I don't want to hear anything about her. She's not family to me." Mom kept trying to talk to me about her, but I just blocked her calls and messages. Then one morning, while we were having breakfast, Carl came and said, "I'm sorry." "For what?" I asked. "Your sister Gabriel died of cancer this morning," he said sorrowfully. I felt a wave of sadness overwhelm me. I booked a flight and I went to my parents' house. The funeral was at their place. I saw her son Alex there. I hugged him. My sister and I had our differences, but I still loved my nephew. But there was one more surprise waiting for me. A little baby girl called Emma. Mom told me that Gabriel had gotten pregnant from one of her boyfriends. Then she had cancer. She decided to keep the baby. The baby was gorgeous, but I knew that Mom couldn't take care of her. She was too old for that. So I decided to adopt the baby. 10 years later, Emma is still living with Carl and me. She knows that I'm not her real mom, but when she asks about Gabriel, I make sure to tell her the most wonderful stories about Gabriel, the ones we had when we were children. What do you think of my story? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.
My sister and I are polar opposites. She's got over 100,000 followers on TikTok, and she creates ASMR videos for YouTube on a daily basis. She loves getting her nails done, doing makeup, and shopping for the hottest new trends. You will never see her leave the house without makeup, dressed to the nines, with her hair done. If she wasn't so nice to people, I'm sure they would think she's the next Regina George. I, on the other hand, can't draw a straight line to make my eyeliner look good. I've got 2 left feet, and my eyebrows are so bushy, I have to pluck them at least once a week. I guess I'm pretty. I just don't pay much attention to that. I would rather play video games and not have to worry about when I last waxed my mustache. I don't have a mustache, by the way. My sister is 2 years older than me, but you would think she's at least 20, and you'd probably mistake me for 12. In truth, she just turned 18, and I'll be 16 soon. Whatever, that part doesn't matter. What you really want to know is why I love to sleep under my sister's bed. Well, it all started out by accident. My sister wasn't home that evening, and even though I look young and have no talent with cosmetics, that doesn't stop me from trying her makeup and clothes when she's not around. We wear practically the same size, but I never buy clothes like she wears. It's my chance to try to get dressed up and be girly without having to shop or get made fun of. This particular night, I was on my way to the bathroom when I saw her door open a crack. Usually, I would walk right on by and not give it a second look. This night, though, I was bored out of my mind. I'd spent the last 6 hours playing Fortnite, and my eyes were just tired. My head was aching. All in all, I just wanted to chill. That's how the bedroom invited me. So the best part about my sister's room is that it's always dimly lit, easier to create relaxing videos that way. My sister spends a lot of her time in her room with headphones on, either editing videos or creating videos for relaxation, so it's like a sanctuary in there. The cracked door cast a warm light in the hallway, and it was like the heavens opened up and said, "Come in. We have the cure for your boredom." I pushed the door open and I instantly calmed down. In order to make her room perfect for filming, she put up these twinkly lights that create a romantic-looking ambiance. That, mixed with her dusty pink walls and her fluffy white rug, makes her bedroom a teenage girl's dream. The fairy lights were blinking and her bed looked super cozy. It was piled high with fluffy pillows and a huge down comforter. She was very particular about how her room was to be seen at all times. Her comforter was tucked in perfectly, and I knew she would kick my butt if she found out I laid down in her bed, so I didn't dare. However, I soon found myself knee-deep in her makeup drawer, swatching lipsticks onto my hand as I tried to decide which one to wear with the sparkly pink eyeshadow I already put on my eyes. That's when I heard the front door slam and her familiar voice called out, "Hey, anyone home?" My parents were out for the evening on a date, so I was the only one there. Instead of being a normal person and saying I was home, I didn't want her to know that I'm super lame and have no friends and that I was home on a Friday night, so I didn't say anything. I heard her drop her keys and bag on the counter and start down the hallway in her heels. Click-clack, she was getting closer to the only door out of the room. I had nowhere to go, so I crawled under her bed. I did not want to hear her wrath, especially if she found out I'd been stealing her makeup. Anytime she ever let me even look at her makeup drawer, she would tell me, "This ain't Ultra. You can't have a free sample." As I zoomed under the bed, the fluffy white rug brushed up against my face in a welcoming way, and I lay my head down just for a moment. She came in the room and went over to her computer. I heard the clicks on her keyboard as she was signed into YouTube, and then set up her camera and recording equipment. Crap, she was going to be here forever. If she started filming or editing, I would be stuck here for hours. I still had to go to the bathroom. She fussed with her makeup and hair in front of the mirror and then turned on the camera. "Hello," she whispered into the camera as she pet the microphones. "Welcome back to my channel." Oh no, I was going to be here for hours. A little while later, she was tapping on a coffee mug and showing the camera something, but I was having a hard time staying awake. I'd found a stuffed bear under her bed and propped my head on it like a pillow. Usually my sister's voice annoyed me, but with this quiet, calm whisper and the ambiance of the room, I was almost purring like a kitten in my hiding spot. It didn't seem like much time had passed, but I found myself waking up terrified that I'd been buried alive. I realized I was still under the bed and the entire room was dark. I had no recollection of falling asleep, and I had no idea what time it was. I crept out from under her bed where she was fast asleep. The entire house was dark and quiet, so I finally went to the bathroom and snuck off to bed. Soon, I realized that I wasn't as comfortable as on the floor of my sister's room, and I didn't fall back to sleep until it was well past 6:30 in the morning. The next day went by without a hitch, and I never mentioned to my sister that I'd been asleep under her for hours. I mean, that's kind of creepy. I'm glad I don't snore, or she may have called the cops on me. That night, my sister went out again with her friends, and this time I was prepared. I went to the bathroom, grabbed a blanket, and snuggled up under her bed on the fluffy white rug. With the twinkling lights around me, I was asleep in no time. I continued to sleep under my sister's bed for the next few weekends. I never did it during the week because I had school and my mom always woke me up in the morning. I even told one of my friends that I was sick and couldn't come over to hang out at her house because I really wanted to sleep on that rug. It was so soft, I felt like I was snuggled up to a polar bear all night. I started to do more than just sleep and relax while my sister was making her videos. I started to listen to music, eat snacks, and scroll social media under there as well. It got to the point where I would go right into her room after school. I didn't realize how much I became obsessed with sleeping under her bed. I would even tell my parents I was staying at school or going to a friend's house so that I could lounge around under my sister's queen-sized bed. I would make sure that I did everything I needed to do before slipping under my sister's bed when I knew she would be filming. These were my favorite nights. She was so calm and quiet in front of the camera. The relaxing monotone of her voice and the quiet tapping of her nails always soothed me to sleep. After about 3 months of continuous sleeping under my sister's bed, she decided she was going to rearrange her room while I was at swim practice. She did this on a whim because she wanted a new filming background. I had no idea she was going to discover the treasure trove under her bed that day. She had my dad help her pull the bed out from the wall. It was huge and hard to scoot. Once they pulled the bed out, they noticed a ton of things that my sister knew she never put there. When I got home, both of my parents and my sister were waiting for me. There was a huge pile of trash, my pillow, some books, and a pack of gum on the coffee table. I don't chew gum, so I knew that wasn't mine, but the point is, I was not expecting this. It was like I was on that show Intervention, but instead of being addicted to beer, I was addicted to my sister's soothing voice and her fuzzy rug. My mom spoke first, and they were all really sweet, I must say. My whole family was concerned I was losing my mind or something. Considering I was lying about where I was most of the day, and that I had basically withdrawn from society, they all thought I was depressed and wanted to help. But anyway, my mom looked at the pile of stuff and then looked at me. "Is there something you want to tell us?" I had to hide my smile. It was funny and cute that they were this concerned. I didn't feel depressed, really. I mean, yeah, I'm a normal teenager who feels down sometimes, but the only reason I really liked sleeping down there is because it's so relaxing. I don't care much for my sister's attitude, but I do love her and find her to be comforting. I didn't say any of this to my parents, though, which would probably have made more sense than what I did say. I like fuzzy polar bears. They all looked at me in confusion, even more confused than they looked before. This time, I did burst out laughing, and they all started to laugh as I told them I just loved her room and wanted to be cozy. I told them about relaxing into the fuzzy rug and how my sister's voice was incredible. I'm glad she's doing what she does because I don't think there's anyone better. When everyone calmed down, my sister got the weirdest look in her eyes. "You know, I have to tell you something too. I've been sneaking into your room when I thought you were gone and played your video games. Your bed is so comfy." I looked at her astonished. "So you've been in my room while I've been hiding under your bed?" We all started laughing again. As weird as it sounds, this really brought our family together. My parents decided that we should turn my room into more of a relaxing sanctuary like my sister's. We got a fuzzy rug for me, a brand new bed, and a gorgeous vanity so I could try and start doing my makeup. My sister saw that some of the makeup I'd had on my arms rubbed off on her rug, and while she was very mad, she was also excited that I wanted to try my hand at painting my face. She also wanted to create an entire YouTube series about it, so we did. The series featured me turning from a kid into a teenager, since I never really grew up out of that tomboy phase, and it got over 1 million hits. And I've even started dabbling in making ASMR videos like my sister. Do I still sleep in her room sometimes? Maybe, but that's because we spend more time together. I've also been showing her how to play Minecraft and Call of Duty, because she's a warrior when it comes to kicking people's virtual butts. I never realized how fun it was being her sister until this. Imagine if I never would have been weird and slept under her bed. We'd probably still be distant, and I would probably have not found my boyfriend, who I met after going to an amusement park with my sister and her boyfriend. Anyway, I hope you guys like this crazy story. If you want to hear more like this, then subscribe to the channel and like this video.